Okay, so this one is titled Why Modern Spongebob Sucks, or Modern Spongebob Sucks. Now, I can remember quite the interesting time where I think at the time it was like early 2010s, late 2000s when SpongeBob was going on quite the decline, and I could, even younger me knew that there was something off about the other seasons. Like, they just did not match up to seasons 1 through 3 in quality, and not many things really stood out to me. I would hear about like more vocal dislike towards this, and I'm like, yeah, this is starting to make sense now. Not that I would follow the crowd, just wasn't sure how to put it into words, but some people were better at putting it into words than I am. Anyway, let's take a look at this.
Modern Spongebob Sucks.
I think this is referring to like that same era that I was talking about. I have no idea how it's been in the times that after Steven Hillenburg had passed, but I think it really puts into perspective how there are just a lot of shows that should not just continue running, otherwise they'll overstay their welcome. Anyways.
Stories lack meaning. Every character has been flattened into a single exaggerated personality trait.
Oh yeah,
that
was a big issue too.
Looks way too polished, and the endless amount of spin-offs are just plain disrespectful.
This also brings something to mind that I don't know if he's going to bring this up later, but there was this huge debate on whether or not Steven Hillenburg would have approved of this, because I remember some saying that he had no plans for spin-offs at all, and then some saying that he did, and the people saying that he didn't intend to do this are like making him roll in his grave, but we'll never know because unfortunately he's no longer with us.
Nickelodeon has squeezed every last doubloon they possibly can out of that sponge.
This is 100% accurate.
We grew up. The decline of SpongeBob SquarePants can be traced back to one specific moment in 2005, because the creator of the show, Steven Hillenburg, never wanted the show to continue after season 3.
And I would agree with him, because I feel like the movie was a good enough finale as it is. That brings up an interesting view that I tend to have about a lot of shows, is that I think it's best to leave them wanting more rather than to have it continue going on. But a lot of the time, greed will get in the way. This also shows to me that everything has a shelf life. And I think it's important that some of the shows don't last forever. It's important to remember that not everything is meant to last forever, and to appreciate things while you still have them.
Once Hillenburg stepped away, and especially after his death,
it got like really deep, I apologize.
The network transformed SpongeBob into a content machine that totally ignores the vision and the soul of its original creator.
Yeah,
am I really gonna defile this grave for money? Of course I am!
Great clip selection, by the way.
The story of SpongeBob isn't about the animation, it's about the animator, because like most creations, the humans behind them are often what make them so special. The greatest Nickelodeon show of all time wasn't created by some animation expert or a corporate product design team. He was a marine biologist who liked to create weird little sea creatures in his free time. Steven Hillenburg wasn't a big dreamer.
So fascinating,
he didn't have Hollywood aspirations. He was very grounded and rooted in reality, which is why he never thought that being an artist was a real career path. Lucky for him, he was also extremely interested in marine science. His practical life plan was that he could get a job in his field and maybe get to express his inner artist here and there.
I was minoring in art, and I had teachers in the art department saying, "What are you doing? Why aren't you in the art school?" I guess I thought, well, I do this, I like marine biology and science, and I'm an artist, so I'll end up making exhibits or working at a museum or something. I just immediately put the two together.
Yeah. What were you painting? Were you painting sort of realistic, classical realism of fish?
These weird, surreal landscapes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with humans.
After college,
I will unfortunately never be able to know Steven Hillenburg truly, but I feel like he'd be a very interesting guy to have a conversation with. I would just love to hear about the fascination that he would have with marine biology.
Steve got a job at the Ocean Institute in California. He enjoyed teaching children about marine life around Dana Point, where he spent a lot of his time studying invertebrates in coastal tide pools, which consisted of aquatic animals without backbones like starfish, crabs, octopi, and the sea sponge.
Some of these I've like no familiarity with. but I'm curious.
One day, Steve's boss asked him if he could use his artistic skills to make a comic book project for incoming children. Steve didn't realize
this I
then,
remember.
but he just casually made the blueprint for one of the most successful cartoons of all time. After that, for years, he contemplated pursuing a career in art because all of his free time went to creating sculptures, drawings, and even films. But he still loved marine science and the consistent, reliable paycheck that came with his job. But then
And
in
thus
the early
the two
90s,
combined.
his work got recognized by Nickelodeon showrunner Joe Murray, who gave Steven a job as an animation director for Rocko's Modern Life at the network. While working at
Shout out
Nick,
to
one
Joe
of his
Murray for
co-animators
allowing
read
this to
the
happen.
Intertitle Zone comic he made 5 years earlier and convinced
Unfortunately, I missed out on Rocko's Modern Life, but I should really get around to watching some more episodes of that.
Steve to try to build his own show from it.
And then Martin was looking at the intertitle comic that I had, and he said, "What are you, crazy? This is your show right here."
Steve developed early concepts, starting with the main character, Sponge Boy. Steve loved how resilient sea
Good old
sponges
Sponge
are.
Boy.
They've done studies where people
could
put
forget
them in
dear
a blender
Sponge Boy?
only for the sea sponge to return to its natural form and stay alive. He could use Sponge Boy as a flexible character that could morph into crazy shapes, but he felt that it would be funnier if he resembled a kitchen sponge rather than an actual sea sponge, hence the square shape. Now, Steve wanted this character to be an adult.
I wonder if it would have landed the same if SpongeBob was shaped like a sea sponge.
But to have a childlike innocence, no hate in his heart, and oftentimes no adult logic to prevent him from getting into silly situations.
I would say the show is really about life.
After they learned Sponge Boy was already
What's
copyrighted, he chose the names.
What's this?
I'm doing one of the rare watch along Wednesdays, Momo. He's done like these mini documentaries slash video essays, and I'm watching one that was titled like "Why Modern Spongebob Sucks." Do you remember the time when that was like a huge topic a decade ago?
Yes, actually, I do.
I imagine that's what he's referring to, because I don't know like how much worse it has gotten like after Steven Hillenburg had passed, but we'll see what this touches upon.
SpongeBob SquarePants. And what's
There's a
incredible is
few
how much
rare good
every single detail in the
episodes.
show was intentionally inspired
Yeah,
by his
there are.
marine science background.
What is he living in a pineapple? Why is he living in a pineapple? And then, first of all, my logic was, it's Hawaiiana. The pineapple in some cultures represents friendship. Like in England, I think you'll see a door knocker.
It's all over
Yeah.
because that meant
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah, it makes sense that he would live in the pineapple,
Mhm.
right? Because he.
Also, to quote Mrs. Puff in Battle for Bikini Bottom, "Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to."
He's friendly.
Every aspect of the show was loosely
Okay, but for
logical
real.
and funny at the same time. SpongeBob's closest friend is a starfish named Patrick Star, who is the dumbest character of the show because actual starfish don't have brains. The owner of the Krusty Krab and SpongeBob's boss,
I happen to know a Patrick that does have a brain, but he's not a starfish. His brain is sometimes there, though. Patrick, if you're watching, I'm just joking.
Mr. Krabs, was based on the manager of a Maine seafood restaurant where Steve worked as a teenager. Mr. Krabs' entire identity surrounds his obsession with money and exploiting his workers and customers for profit. He's what people would call a bottom feeder, and crabs in real life feed on things at the bottom of the ocean. Sandy Cheeks is a squirrel from Texas who wears an astronaut suit that keeps her alive underwater. It was Steve's attempt at making a strong female character that embodied the adventurer spirit during the space missions to the moon overseen from Houston.
And I think it works.
Squidward Tentacles is actually Steve Hillenburg's way of joking about the other half of his real-life personality. He's a pretentious, aspiring artist, a mediocre band geek, and his name doesn't match his octopus body, representing the internal confusion with his own artistic identity.
Yeah, it wouldn't have landed if his name was Octoword.
Squidward's his name, but he's an octopus. I like the round head, but Squidward is funnier than Octoboy. Squidward is this
Plus, it is like a play on the name Edward, so it's more clever.
curmudgeon, snotty, aloof, a wannabe artist. In a way, Squidward is the guy I can identify with most.
See, Squid belongs to some of those music societies,
Yeah, he
right?
probably-
The clarinet, undersea clarinet society. Yeah, he's into interpretive dance and any kind of snobbery incorporated, he would be into it.
I've heard a lot of people say that when we're kids, we identify with SpongeBob, but as we grow older, we identify with Squidward. Sometimes that can apply.
That is true.
Subscribes to Fancy Living Digest.
It
Anything
definitely
that
has applied
SpongeBob's
to me.
not into, Squidward's probably into.
Steve got to be as creative and absurd as possible while creating his own show, and yet everything is there for a reason. While SpongeBob lives in a friendly pineapple, Squidward lives in an Easter Island head that plays on his big-headed ambitions. Patrick is an idiot who literally lives under a rock. Mr. Krabs...
How did I just now realize that? Literally living under a rock.
Sorry, rewind that.
That Patrick is literally lives under a rock, and I didn't know that was also a play on words with the term living under a rock, the metaphor or the idiom.
Runs a restaurant shaped like a giant
He really
lobster
does
trap,
live under
along
a
with living at
rock.
home with his whale daughter, Pearl, in
I don't think the fact that Krabs' daughter is a whale is ever going to be. I don't think that's ever going to be addressed, or like who the mother is.
an anchor. Plankton owns the Chum Bucket restaurant that is always empty. Chum in real life is bait made out of dead fish to attract sharks. Since Plankton...
Okay, since it's blurred, I think it should still not get the stream taken down. But you know, that makes sense as to why nobody goes for Chum, now that I think about it. I mean, would you eat at a restaurant that just has ground up human?
Nope.
Your choices are McDonald's or ground up human at a low effort restaurant with computers.
Potential customers are all fish. They probably don't want to partake in cannibalism.
Exactly.
Sandy lives in a dome under the sea, inverting the phrase fish out of water to a mammal out of the air. And the
I
town
like
they live
how
in
clever that
called
is.
Bikini Bottom. Most of us think about a bathing suit. However, it is also a dark humor reference to the Bikini Atoll nuclear site, which is located in the real-world country of the Marshall Islands.
Okay, this I
67
remember
nuclear
hearing about
weapons
briefly.
tests were carried out from 1946 to 1958, including the explosion of the first H-bomb. I personally love this detail because if there were talking sea creatures in a town in the ocean, it probably would have happened after nuclear radiation mutated all the living organisms. All of this is to say
Maybe they're real and we just don't notice that.
that Steve was arguably more of a pure artist than most traditional animators, and it's the loose logic that turns a good cartoon into a great cartoon. And even though Steve wasn't the most confident guy in the world, he knew he had a great idea, and he fought Nickelodeon hard
definitely
to keep
did.
his idea from being destroyed. At the beginning, people give you notes and you have to fight back. It was a new show, and no one knows if a new show will work. Nick had decided it didn't want any more animal shows and wanted stories with kids, like Hey Arnold. They actually wanted to make Arnold Under the Sea and make SpongeBob a child. I said, no, that's not the show. In fact,
Yeah, let's not create a
Hillenburg almost
copycat
walked
there.
out and refused to work with Nickelodeon until they came to a compromise. SpongeBob would go to school like a child, but it would be a boat driving school for young adults taught by a character named Mrs. Puff. And although the fandom now loves Mrs. Puff, this is the harsh reality of working with a corporation. You have to make
Oh, boy.
concessions for the sake of making your bosses and executives happy, which is something that Hillenburg would grow extremely tired of in the coming years. But creating the animated world is only half the battle. Steve now needed the right voice actors to...
Oh, let me go back to that for a
Creating
second.
the animated world is only half the battle.
So, fun fact.
G.I. Joe.
What?
Sorry.
So, fun fact, when I was like a teen, I would find some of the assets from the SpongeBob PC games, which would pretty much just straight up be a lot of the painted backgrounds, and I'd find out how to convert those into JPEGs and PNGs. So if I wanted to, with OBS, I could put myself on one of these backgrounds.
You should totally try that one. You should do that for a SpongeBob stream, actually.
I'll even load up the talking fish head VTuber model that I found. It's pretty much just
Yes.
that talking fish, but I made sure to color the suit red and add a fedora on top of him. I wonder how well that would work.
I'd like to see that.
Might as well do that.
Steve now needed the right voice actors to bring these characters to life. He chose Tom Kenny, who voiced Heifer in Rocco's Modern
Shout out to
Life,
Tom
for
Kenny.
SpongeBob's voice. Tom later admitted that
Absolute
SpongeBob's
legend.
high-pitched voice was inspired by a real-life little person who was angry about being typecast as an
I remember this
There was
story.
one guy at the audition. He was, in a different part of the corridor.
Warning, chat, this will be hearing SpongeBob curse if you're not ready for that.
Yeah.
And he was hanging with a couple of his buds.
Yeah.
And just the most bitter, ticked off little person in an elf outfit you've ever seen.
So this is the only, if it wasn't for the Christmas shit, I wouldn't f***ing work.
Oh,
This is
never
the
mind,
only
it's
time of
bleeped
the
out.
year that I f***ing work. It pisses me off. It's like, I'm glad to have it.
But the
knock
clip
on
is
wood,
out there.
Mother, dragon, you know? It's like,
And I was just like, wow. And I told Steve Hillenberg that story. Years go by. Yeah. And he remembered that story. I totally even forgotten the story because it was something that happened to you on a day, and then you tell people that you run into that day, and then you kind of forget about it. And
there is a compilation out there of like multiple of the different SpongeBob voice actors actually cursing.
And he said, remember that guy? So
that's kind of where SpongeBob came from, sort of like a munchkin, like a...
without the negativity.
Tom was the perfect voice for the role, and Hillenberg somehow managed to assemble a ton of underrated voice actors who gave each character an iconic vocal identity.
Everyone's here. We got the voice of Patrick. I don't remember. I know his first name is Bill, but I don't remember how to pronounce his last name. We got Roger Bumpus, the voice of Squidward, Mr. Lawrence, the voice of Plankton and Larry the Lobster, Clancy Brown, the voice of Mr. Krabs, and Carolyn Lawrence, the voice of Sandy. Or I could be getting the name wrong, but I know that's the voice of Sandy.
You play Plankton? Kaboom!
Larry, the Lobster.
Come meet at the Chum Bucket.
Hey. Also
I
play
didn't
Fred.
know he played both
My
characters.
No!
Oh, he's also Fred.
I'm on Team Crab.
Who could forget
Play
Fred?
Fred. My leg!
No!
My leg!
I'm on Team Crabs for life.
A team? Oh, pick me! We're out of Krabby Patties right now!
Hang on, you see
Crabs
it?
for life.
You see how difficult his last name looks how to pronounce? That's the problem that I have.
Team? Oh, pick me! We're out of Krabby Patties right now! Well, Plankton, like a reheated Krabby Patty, you've been foiled again!
Roger Bumpus is also the voice of Dib's father in Invader Zim.
I'll have 2 Krabby Patties.
Yeah, Carolyn
extra
Lawrence,
ketchup,
I was right.
Extra mustard and hold the mayo.
Prioritizing the art style over traditional storytelling, filling the cast with bizarre characters, and making the tone intentionally chaotic sounded like a disaster for a new kids show. Nickelodeon executives, SpongeBob probably looked less like the future of children's television and more like an unmarketable experiment. But Steve didn't care. I was definitely interested in making a world that was different to anything on the air and to what had existed before. It was also to do with my interest in the ocean and background as a marine biologist, and I was
that really helped
conscious
it
of
stand
creating
out.
something that I wanted to be my own. The SpongeBob SquarePants universe was the result of one guy's deeply personal creative vision, which ironically was about to make these corporate suits filthy rich. In
Oh boy.
1999, SpongeBob SquarePants debuted on Nickelodeon and was an instant success. The pilot was called Help Wanted, along with 2 other sister episodes or episodes within an episode called Reef Blower and Tea at the Tree Dome.
Reef Blower, the one episode that has no dialogue whatsoever other than SpongeBob pointing at something with a caption that says "you."
And right away, it was clear
But
that
no
the
dialogue
show
is
wasn't
spoken.
following the traditional rules of another animated series. For starters, Steve chose to introduce Bikini Bottom in a French accent. The reason behind the voice came from a French oceanographer, Jacques Cousteau, who was the first person on TV to inspire Hillenberg
That's
to
where
be
that
a
comes
marine
from.
biologist.
Here we see Bikini Bottom, teeming with life.
Ghoul Lagoon, where the sun is hot and the sunbathers are oh so cool.
For an animated show, SpongeBob was surprisingly colorful. The entire landscape was painted in light blues and greens with fine sand and rays of light all over to simulate the feeling of being underwater. But once again, if anything was beautiful or deep, it also came with something absurd to balance it out, like how the Hawaiian t-shirt flowers in the sky and sand looked like how they were drawn by a little kid, or how buildings in the backgrounds always looked like massive pieces of coral made out of metal. SpongeBob
now
had
I can
the
see
world's
that.
loudest foghorn alarm clock to make sure he was awake at the same time every day.
This had spawned so many people that would have the foghorn sound for their alarms. It's not mine, but I should do that. But instead I have a song that just like fades in so it can mess with my head if it turns out that I'm about to wake up and that song is playing. And if there's a dream that's happening while that song is playing, I'm like, wait, no.
He had a pet sea snail named Gary that was always annoyed and meowed like a cat. He had a closet full of the same exact SquarePants outfits.
And thank you
Instead
for
of
the
lifting weights,
surety.
He lifted stuffed animals to show he was extremely ambitious but adorably innocent. He hyped himself up, saying his signature catchphrase, "I'm ready," and his neighborhood friend Patrick popped out from his rock to support SpongeBob in his quest to
Chad,
live
are you
his
ready?
lifelong dream to be a fry cook at the Krusty Krusty Krab. Additionally, most animated shows at the time were drawn on model, meaning they stuck to a fixed style guide to maintain consistency from frame to frame. However, SpongeBob
way too many
SquarePants was
energy drinks
created
from
using
Walmart.
off-model animation,
Oh
meaning
boy.
that every time you looked at SpongeBob, he was never exactly the same. His tie could be smaller, his face could be longer, his teeth could be bigger, but most importantly, his body and face was essentially elastic, so he could be stretched and transformed to literally wear his emotions.
It's weird that when he's talking about a lot of the classic episodes, there's also some season 4 episodes from after the movie was released. Because, like, this is all taking place before the movie.
Which meant that the writers didn't just have to rely on dialogue to tell their story or...
And I'm pretty sure that was a later episode. This one I'm sure is season 2 or season 3.
Prove their point. They could visually tell stories
Another
by
later
changing
one.
SpongeBob's physical form. And beyond off-model, Hillenburg
Also,
told stories
meme detected!
by changing SpongeBob...
It's that mocking meme right there!
Physical form. And beyond off-model, Hillenburg's SpongeBob wasn't afraid to use really impressive sketching and painting to add drama.
This looks like another image that I'm sure would be a very common profile picture
To the scene. For example, when SpongeBob and Patrick meet Sandy in Tea in the Tree Dome, SpongeBob spends his first time in open air. Patrick makes SpongeBob believe that
this would be me visiting a very humid state.
all he has to do is be fancy, telling him
Just
to keep
drying
his
up
pinky
easily.
no matter what. But soon, SpongeBob starts to slowly die in the tree dome, and Patrick stupidly tells SpongeBob to ignore water and keep his pinky raised. When they zoom in on his drying face, the details look closer to fine art rather than a cartoon. Of course, none of these techniques on their own were technically new, but SpongeBob SquarePants had put them together in a way that redefined modern animation. The highly detailed close-ups made for often uncomfortable and sometimes gross situations.
Okay, that is definitely a later episode, because that is even more disgusting than any of the season 1 through 3 close-ups. Seriously, what were they thinking?
But to take it even further than that, Hillenburg's team also had no trouble using real-life people as plot devices whenever they thought it was ridiculously funny. In a season 2 Christmas special called Christmas
Absolute
Who, we're
classic.
introduced to Tom Kenny dressed in a pirate's costume named...
Wait, is this the first episode where we see Patchy? If so, that's insane.
Patchy the Pirate, with a parrot puppet named Potty. He'd be depicted as SpongeBob's #1 fan and become a major host in any SpongeBob specials. Or another strange episode where a man dressed up in a gorilla costume pops into frame, tries to kill Sandy and Patrick, rips SpongeBob in half, and gave nightmares to children around the world.
Does that include you, Momo?
No, I didn't have nightmares from that.
No, I didn't either.
Best kid show ever. As if it
Yeah, exactly.
couldn't get any better, the stories and character dynamics were damn near perfect. Initially, it seems like everyone in Bikini Bottom sees SpongeBob as a
I was on my way to the Big Doofus convention.
fool or pitiful man-child. Characters like
I
Squidward,
immediately
Mr.
knew the
Krabs,
line
and
that would
Plankton see
come up
his
in that
hopeful
scene.
perspective as a weakness and try to exploit it for their own personal gain. But to Hillenburg, he said the premise for the show is that innocence prevails, which I don't think it always does in real life.
True.
And this is demonstrated constantly with his interactions with Squidward, with the first being jellyfishing, where SpongeBob and Patrick invite Squidward to catch jellyfish in jellyfish fields. Not only does he deny the invite, but he is a sarcastic jerk about it, which results in him getting hunted down by a jellyfish, stung, and then riding his bike off a cliff, which leaves him temporarily paralyzed. SpongeBob, who has no hate in his heart, realizes that Squidward needs help and decides to take care of him. From there, they take him jellyfishing to show him how much fun he is missing out on. Squidward...
Oh, fun fact about that scene that you were about to see. This is how widespread SpongeBob has been. My aunt will get even though like my aunt is not the target audience that some people would say that SpongeBob is for, she absolutely loves the firmly grasp it scene and will still quote it to this day. That's how much of an impact that SpongeBob has.
Seeks revenge on the jellyfish, only for him to get stung by a massive jellyfish that injures him even more. Basically, every time he has a cynical outlook or bad intentions, he pays for it by getting hurt. It was hilarious and sticks to Steve's message that innocence prevails.
Yep.
SpongeBob was never supposed to be dumb or foolish. He just has so much faith in the world around him that it creates new adventures and challenges.
We need more SpongeBobs out there.
Hillenburg said, SpongeBob is a complete innocent, not an idiot. SpongeBob never fully realizes how stupid Patrick is. They're whipping themselves up into situations. That's always where the humor comes from. Hillenburg also wrote the show so that any character could be a foil character, which is a character who highlights the traits of another character through contrast or comparison. Sandy showed SpongeBob's lack of strength with karate. Mrs. Puff showed that he can study, but lacks the mental maturity and patience to actually drive. Mr. Krabs showed his lack of greed, and Plankton showed his lack of evil. But just when you think these characters are extreme...
You know, sometimes I feel like that there are people that we know that can be, like, full of characters in a story. Like, another person just brings something out of you and just displays a side of you.
Extremely predictable, Hillenburg always found a way to give them some depth, because in real life,
which makes it so that they're equally as important in your story.
Not just one emotion or one character trait, like how he portrayed Squidward in the 5th episode of season 1 called Pizza Delivery. Mr. Krabs decides that the Krusty Krab should enter the pizza delivery service. And
the cheeseburger pizza has been a real thing in, I think Pizza Hut Middle Eastern. There was like a crust that was cheeseburger themed.
SpongeBob and Squidward have to personally deliver to the first...
But it wasn't a pizza made out of cheeseburgers.
...customer, but they get lost and have to do this long, brutal journey on foot.
Sounds like an interesting
Squidward is
concept,
grumpy
though.
and annoyed like usual, but they eventually make it. Unfortunately, the customer refuses to pay because the delivery took too long and they forgot his drink.
My diet Dr.
Cries,
Kelp?
Feeling like a failure, and instead of siding with the customer, Squidward defends SpongeBob, taking the pizza to the ungrateful customer and
well, this
smashing it
one's
into his
on the
face.
house!
Suddenly, all of us realize that Squidward was one of the most misunderstood characters. Maybe SpongeBob annoyed him all the time, but he wasn't gonna let some jerk disrespect
Pretty
his
sure if I got our friend Nate in the call, he would just be quoting a lot of the scenes on this with me if this was the video that we were showing him.
It established this kind of older brother, younger brother dynamic where Squidward low-key cares about SpongeBob, but is constantly annoyed by his antics to show it. But the greatest part about SpongeBob SquarePants
Yeah, it shows that he's human.
Was that the team somehow figured out a way to
he
make
may
this show
get annoyed
appeal
by
to
him,
kids
but he still
and
cares
their
at the end of the
parents.
day.
Kids enjoyed the silly physical comedy and songs like the Fun Song or Jellyfish Rave, and adults were able to laugh at the low-key inappropriate jokes that...
This was a later season, and I'm surprised that they were able to get away with this sometimes.
...would never exist on kids' TV today.
That's it! Patrick, your genius is showing.
Where?
I feel like a big jerk.
That one definitely flew over my head. The one with the picture of the donkey. Until I learned another word for donkey, I was like, oh.
Yeah, it flew over my head too.
Guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
It was so crazy that they allowed this on this episode. And now the episode is completely removed from any TV airing.
Oh,
Luckily,
man.
that's what DVDs and physical media are for, ladies and gentlemen. And people that identify as neither.
I was one of those kids that got to actually see that episode on TV.
Same.
Yeah. And you're talking about raiding their dressers for their underpants, right? Oh yeah.
Like, dang, I didn't know SpongeBob and Patrick had this side of them.
Give us some credit, old man. We're panty professionals.
Huh? Looking back, it's so weird to hear Patrick refer to himself as a panty professional.
We score here all the time.
Okay, and that just adds on to that. This, once again, is a later season.
By the end of season 2, it wasn't just a cult classic. SpongeBob's face alone was a marketing goldmine, with images of SpongeBob
Pretty much Nickelodeon's Mickey Mouse.
and the other characters appearing on items ranging from thong underwear to boxes of macaroni and cheese.
Thong underwear? I forgot that this was a thing. SpongeBob thong underwear.
Sales of merchandise related to the show reached 750 million.
The mac and cheese I remember, though. I did used to get, like, the Kraft mac and cheese SpongeBob theme before.
He quickly became a cultural icon, and by season 3, the show really had reached its peak.
Why'd they have to show that image for season 3? I'm pretty sure this exact artwork was much later.
3 of the major standouts were Club SpongeBob, where Squidward is stranded with Patrick and SpongeBob while they follow a mechanical magic conch. Squidward doesn't believe in the power of the conch, but ultimately gives in when they get everything they wish for.
Hold on, do we have like an actual toy of the magic conch? Because if they're not selling that, that's an opportunity that they're missing out on.
Or the
I mean, there
Idiot
is the
Box,
magic
where
8-ball.
SpongeBob and Patrick purchase a
Yeah, but it's not a conch, Momo.
That may be true, but it's still magic.
It's not a conch.
massive TV with the intention to throw it out and only play inside the box it was delivered in. Squidward takes the TV from the trash thinking he got the better deal, but realizes that television leaves him feeling bored and empty inside. It was a fun way to show children that you don't need TV to explore new worlds if your imagination is strong enough. But the season favorite has to be Chocolate with Nuts.
Yes!
Where Patrick and SpongeBob try to get rich by selling chocolate bars as entrepreneurs. They keep getting
Did
scammed
you say
by a cruel
chocolate?
salesman while running away from a fish screaming chocolate at the top of his lungs, and it's only when they can't run.
Don't ask why, but I know that the canon name for that fish is Tom. Okay, you can't ask why. According to the SpongeBob Wiki, which I'm pretty sure keeps track of all the fish names, like this one is Tom, the one that screams my leg is Fred. And I think the later season writers had become aware of that, and now a lot more people are knowing him as Fred
anymore that they realize the maniac is willing to give them a small fortune. It was the kind of season that made SpongeBob look like the next Simpsons, but for kids.
And then unfortunately it would become the next Simpsons in terms of overstaying its welcome.
There was nothing they couldn't do, and it had the potential to never end. But just as SpongeBob was becoming a worldwide phenomenon, Steve Hillenburg wanted it to be done. I definitely need a break, Hillenburg told the Times. I want to try something new. I think the network wants to make a SpongeBob movie. I also want to make a movie. I wouldn't want to try and work on the series concurrently with the film. At that point,
Which makes
Steve
a lot
was
of
gearing
sense.
up for the SpongeBob movie to be the conclusion of the show, and everyone started losing their damn minds.
But it works pretty well as a conclusion.
A longtime crew member, Kenny Pittenger, said, "Many people were astonished when SpongeBob ended after the third season. It's at the height of its popularity, but it's so funny. Aren't you guys getting great ratings?"
It's like the clip from Toy Story 2 where Woody's watching his show for the first time and there isn't really an ending episode and he's like, oh, that was a good show, why cancel it? But there really are valid reasons as to why a lot of shows will end with just a couple of seasons. As mentioned before, I think it's a good way of bringing home the message that everything has a shelf life. And sometimes it's a better idea to leave them wanting more.
Has Steve gone crazy? Steve had several reasons for ending it when he did, but even though I don't know any of this...
It's the same kind of thing that can apply to Dragon Ball Z, the abridged series, which I was sad for a while that it ended in 2020 after the last episodes of the Cell Saga, but I totally understood why they had to end it. They were afraid of having it overstay its welcome and jump the shark or run out of ideas, and while I would have liked more episodes with the Boo Saga, I still like what they did with the Boo bits for Totally Not Mark's review of the Boo Saga. So it was good to see a slight return to it, even if it was brief.
Specifics, the movie undoubtedly factored into his decision. Steve said he was going to end the show after the third season so the show wouldn't jump the shark.
Exactly.
The show was such a cash cow for the station that it couldn't afford to. Steve was able to leave and still gets a cut of the merchandising, so I'm happy for him. Hillenburg always approached this show as an artist with a story to tell. He made enough money, he was set for life, and now that the story was over, it was time to move on and create new things. But as we all know, corporations don't care about art, and even...
Yep. That still applies to this day.
If Steve was going to walk away, Nickelodeon was never remotely considering actually canceling SpongeBob SquarePants.
Unfortunately.
Example of what happens when a corporation takes a piece of art and milks it dry until it becomes an unrecognizable shell of...
Yeah, even if like whether or not SpongeBob was going to have, whether or not it was planned for SpongeBob to have a spin-off, this felt like such a weird concept.
What it once was. According to everyone working on the SpongeBob movie, the process behind making it was one of the most challenging periods of their lives. Even crew members like Eric Weiss, who had left the show to work on cult classics like Samurai Jack and Danny Phantom, returned to make sure it was a success. I always wanted to be a feature animator, and the movie felt like I was on the character animation end. It was a blast. It felt like coming home. We saw how stressed Steve and Derek were, so we wanted to work hard for them. We all felt like we had some ownership of SpongeBob. SpongeBob, like we were a family that helped raise him. SpongeBob became the manager of the Krusty Krab too. He won the respect of his peers as a young adult while still embracing his inner childlike creativity, and Plankton was sent to prison for his countless crimes. And
we all celebrated with Ocean Man by Ween, which is a band that I'm pretty sure is not meant for general audiences.
Better, the movie included all of the classic devices that made the show so special, with live-action cameos, songs, and adult jokes that made it feel more like the longest episode ever rather.
Oh, who could forget SpongeBob getting drunk off of ice cream? This also took me a while to get. It took me like years in order to get what this was supposed to be an allegory for.
Than a film.
She's Birdie, SpongeBob.
Here, take this.
What's in here?
It's a magical bag of wins. I stole them from my father.
You're hot.
But again, Nickelodeon had
Good
no
old Patrick
intentions
Star.
on ending the show, and it seemed like they were low-key grooming animator Paul Tibbitt to be the next Steve Hillenburg. Paul said, "I was wrapping up on the movie and the network wanted to do more shows." Steve said, "No, I want to finish the movie," and he wasn't even sure if he wanted to go back to the show.
I would have been
He
with
felt
Steve
he'd
on
done
this
what
one.
he set out to accomplish, and he wanted to take a step back and try something different. I had sort of been training to take over the job. After we finished writing the last season, they kept me around because they had a couple of things in mind. They just wanted to keep me around in case something popped up. But when we were working on the movie, they came in one day and said, "We want to make more episodes, but Steve doesn't want to."
And Steve is in the right.
I said, "I'll do it." They came back the next day and said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Sure." It was just being in the right place at the right time.
And this is where things got crazy.
Many fans interpret this as the exact moment that SpongeBob was stolen from Steven Hillenburg. But the harsh truth is that Hillenburg lost control over the SpongeBob IP the second he sold it to Nickelodeon. That might not make it right, but that's just how the business has worked for decades. The artist creates the show, they get a cut of the merch and rerun earnings, and if they're really lucky, they might be able to maintain creative control while it's running. Steve knew this, and given that SpongeBob was so massively popular, he had a hard choice to make. Either he could be trapped in the writer's room for all eternity and maintain control of his story, or he could let go of the day-to-day operations and do what makes him happy.
It makes sense. It's a very difficult decision to make.
I did the movie. Paul came in and basically has been running the show kind of in my shoes.
Did you just need a rest at that point, you think?
I felt like it's time for new blood. I think it's good to change things up to keep it fresh.
And while Steve would remain as an executive producer of the show after season 3, his role went
just a little involved.
From being the guy making sure that every single aspect of the show was perfect to someone who just kind of oversees and gives his opinion after the episodes are complete, and the team can consider his thoughts if they want to, but realistically they don't have to listen to him. And
this has me wonder how much of an input Steven really had during that era.
Steve's absence from the day-to-day grind was extremely noticeable.
This would also give me the mental image of, by the time he'd return, I could just imagine him bursting through the door and being like, "What did you do to my creation?"
I can imagine that too.
What are you doing?
Noticeable as soon as season 4 aired. The downfall of SpongeBob SquarePants had officially begun.
On season 4, which it had some good episodes, but I could tell when things were starting to go downhill.
At its best, SpongeBob Season 4 was rated a point or two lower than every episode from seasons 1 through 3. At its worst, it was getting massacred by a disappointed fan base that felt that the spirit of the original SpongeBob was
Season 4 is not a classic quality season and is overrated. Interesting.
Fading away. The only halfway decent episodes, in my opinion, were Krusty Towers.
Oh, Krusty Towers I was quite fascinated by, mainly by the concept of the Krusty Krab becoming a hotel.
Where Mr. Krabs turns the Krusty Krab into a hotel, and Skill Crane, where Squidward gets addicted to winning a prize from a claw machine. But even still, the captivating storytelling was missing. It felt boring, and this only spiraled out of control in later seasons, where a lot of fans felt like it wasn't even the same show anymore, but more like a knockoff that took its place and destroyed.
What am I looking at here?
I seen that earlier.
Really?
I was like, what is this?
I don't know.
the characters. Over the next 10 years, the SpongeBob writers reduced the characters significantly through a process called Flanderization. It was originally named after Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, who was originally depicted as a friendly, generous Christian neighbor and a model father, husband, and citizen, making him a contrast to Homer Simpson. As seasons progressed, however, he became increasingly obsessively religious to the point where he eventually embodied almost every negative stereotype of the God-fearing, Bible-thumping American Christian evangelist.
Yeah, to the point where his only personality was Christian.
And it applies to any character. It's the act of taking a single, often minor action or trait of a character within a work and exaggerating it more and more over time until it completely consumes the character.
They're just like, so Ned Flanders had this Christian background. What if we took the Christian background and just cranked it up to 1,000?
This got so bad that SpongeBob fans refer to season 6 through 9 as the Dark Era. For Squidward, the complaints mainly stemmed from what is referred to as Squidward torture. In early
Well, it was called more than just Squidward torture, but it's understandable why the guy can't say the full term for it. To spell it out, I think a lot of people labeled it as Squidward torture corn, let's say.
Episode, Squidward would be a jerk.
Not the actual corn, by the way.
Fairly treated or at worst tortured for seemingly no reason.
You know what else this reminded me of? I remember like 2 videos by this infamous cartoon reviewer by the name of the Mysterious Mr. Enter, if anyone remembers that. And he had like top 10 worst Squidward torture episodes and top 10 episodes where Patrick's a huge jerk. Now, I don't really agree with how extreme he would be in those videos, but I can definitely understand why the episodes were not very good. And I would agree with like the episodes not being very good. I just wouldn't agree with how extreme he would be with those. And I would hope that, I could be wrong, but I hope that he's not as extreme with his opinions going forward. He might be, or he might not be, I don't know. I don't keep up with him entirely.
In Choir Boys, Squidward desperately wants to perform at a concert, only for SpongeBob's non-stop screaming to literally destroy his throat and ruin the opportunity entirely.
I wondered how that happened in the episode, if it was like a lot of screaming from Squidward that had done that.
In Boating Buddies, Squidward gets trapped, spending the day with SpongeBob, leading to him being falsely arrested and publicly embarrassed, despite doing almost nothing wrong. Squid's
what the heck
takes
was
it
that
even
episode?
further, with Squidward finally escaping SpongeBob, only to discover SpongeBob has secretly recreated his entire house inside his own home.
This is stalker material.
Turning the episode into something that feels like a genuinely unsettling Black Mirror episode instead of silly and funny. Episodes like Slide Whistle Stooges and Giant Squidward kept pushing this same formula.
Yeah, this
Squidward
one was
wasn't
a
really
pain to
flawed,
watch.
misunderstood character getting comedic payback anymore. He was just plain miserable and being tortured for it. And over time, that subtle shift completely changed the tone of the show, leading to this extremely dark joke.
I can't seem to get happy.
Yeah, how did they manage to get away with that one?
For saying
I still wonder how they managed to get away with that one. To the point where I'm pretty sure some people connected that to the Squidward creepypasta that I don't know if I can name the full name of, but if you know, you know.
Sandy Cheeks, it was more about how she became more and more obsessed with science than anything else.
And there was no hint to that other than like maybe Sandy's rocket that had like the slight expressed interest in science. So I'm guessing that the writers that worked on that just saw that episode and like, we'll make her a scientist.
The dimensions of her personality as a strong Texan with nothing to lose were mostly replaced.
I'm just now noticing the chroma key of this part of the Texas music video.
Making her just feel kind of dull. Sandy's rocket was literally the only time in the older episodes where she showed an interest in science.
Yeah,
then,
exactly.
Right out of nowhere, she's suddenly obsessed with it. Now, a lot of the newer episodes are just her dumb experiments. But what they did to Patrick Star could be the worst of them all. He's always been a dumb sidekick for SpongeBob, but he never did anything with the intention to harm people.
Hey, Patrick,
Yeah.
are you angry too? Yeah. What's the matter?
I can't see my forehead.
During the Dark Era, they made him insufferably dumb. No charm at all, just one brain cell. Like in The Splinter, where SpongeBob gets a splinter.
Oh, anything but that episode. This was This was insanely graphic. Another case of what were they thinking?
In his thumb and calls Dr. Patrick, whose office is in the Krusty Krab dumpster. Patrick then starts the exam by chewing on SpongeBob's foot, and then he gets mad when SpongeBob says that's not helping. From there, instead of trying to pull the little piece of wood out, Patrick decides to hammer the splinter deeper into SpongeBob's thumb and then rubs garbage all over it to
Chat, I'm sorry you had to relive this.
To reduce the swelling. Like, at this point, this isn't even just Patrick being dumb. Like, it almost seems like he's just intentionally trying to cause harm.
It's also very disgusting.
Writing here is so lazy that it goes beyond dumb. It's just nonsensical. Doctors' offices are supposed to be clean, so they put Patrick in a dumpster. You're supposed to pull the splinter out, so Patrick pushes it further in. The wounds are supposed to be sterile so they don't get an infection, and he puts garbage all over it. Just making Patrick do the opposite of what he's supposed to do is nonsensical. There's no charm. Like, he used to have this charm to his dumbness. Like, in a way, Patrick was so dumb that you almost thought he was onto something.
Oh, if only I knew how to work this thing.
Let me take a look at it. You know what the problem is?
What?
You got it set to M for Minnie, when it should be set to W for Wumbo.
Who could forget about
If the
Wumbo?
writing wasn't bad enough, Patrick from here was often
I Wumbo, you Wumbo, he, she, me, Wumbo. Wumbology? The study of Wumbo? It's first grade, SpongeBob. My brain right now.
Depicted as extremely selfish, cruel, and weirdly aggressive towards SpongeBob in newer episodes. In Yours, Mine, and Mine, Patrick is particularly insufferable as he tries to force SpongeBob to share his toy with him.
Hey, Patrick, have you met my new toy?
Don't you mean our new toy?
Our new toy?
It came from the meal that we're sharing.
Sharing?
Remember, sharing is the most wonderful feeling in the world! Like dancing with a magical seahorse through an enchanted kelp garden.
Oh boy.
Remember those words, SpongeBob?
I didn't say that, but I guess we can share, Patty Pal.
And
I'm surprised he didn't use the episode The Card, which had the infamous moment of Patrick saying, SpongeBob, you can't always expect my usual brand of stupidity. I like to mix it up, keep you on your toes. I remember that one got Mr. Enter fuming a lot.
Stuck in the ringer, SpongeBob gets trapped in a towel ringer.
He's doing this on purpose. He's always been doing this on purpose.
Food. Instead of trying to efficiently help him out, the writers again make Patrick do the opposite thing that he should do, and he decides to glue SpongeBob to the ringer, thinking
what was he thinking?
It will fix it, but it traps SpongeBob even more. From there, Patrick decides to take SpongeBob to the carnival while he has an amazing time, and SpongeBob has to sit there and watch how much fun
this was not a fun
him.
episode
When
to watch
SpongeBob
back
finally
then.
defends himself, Patrick cries, and the whole town sees SpongeBob as the bad guy.
You know, kid, your body isn't the problem. It's your heart.
What was up with these guys' attitude in that episode?
Deserve what you've gotten. Come on, we're out of here.
SpongeBob then falls into a deep depression, and Patrick comes over, cries again, and his tears melt the glue, which allows SpongeBob to break free. And then they
And then he somehow gets rid of his 5 o'clock shadow there.
Really make SpongeBob say the lesson to be learned from this story in the end.
I guess crying does solve your problems after all.
Huh? Anyways.
Not only is this terrible, nonsensical, and not even remotely funny, I've never seen them have to explain the point of an episode at the end. It's also increasingly obvious that SpongeBob has only been for kids after Steven Hillenburg left, and it was always a kid's show.
Yeah, you definitely see the both of them acting a lot more childish rather than just innocent compared to everyone else. You can definitely see how much more childish they are.
But what made it so different was the fact that parents could watch alongside their kids and enjoy it, so they could share laughs and make memories together. But SpongeBob acts and behaves more like a baby than ever before,
the eyes right there as they were playing with the toy didn't help either.
Making it unwatchable for adults.
Not only that, but the crying afterwards.
The characters don't feel like adults anymore. In the original show, while SpongeBob was childish, he never felt like a kid. He just felt like an optimistic adult with childish hobbies.
This also feels like quite a stark contrast with the SpongeBob movie, where SpongeBob's trying to prove that he is a man and not a kid. And then we have episodes like that are showing that he's still a kid. apparently.
But now everyone just feels like a kid in an adult's body. But in the newer seasons, he just cries over stupid reasons. Breaking a spatula, tripping over his toe, ripping his favorite shirt, while several others just like it are hanging right behind it. Honestly, I cannot with the stupidity of modern SpongeBob. And most people's rebuttal is, bro, you're just getting older.
I don't think that's the only thing. Like, yeah, I think a lot of us have gotten older, but somehow, mentality-wise, SpongeBob and Patrick have regressed somehow.
Part is, this all started way back in seasons 4 and 5. A lot of us,
not only that, but Squidward would get done dirty a lot.
We're still little kids at that time. I remember being like 9 or 10 and thinking these episodes just felt different.
Same!
And now I'm just reanalyzing as an adult and seeing I was right. But it wasn't just the writing that negatively impacted this iconic show. SpongeBob's own animation was losing a lot of its initial charm. It started with subtle changes like better lighting and vibrant colors after the first movie, which is understandable. They have to keep up with the times. But in
yeah, there's that kind of thing for The Simpsons as well.
2015, when Hillenburg and Nickelodeon released SpongeBob, Sponge Out of Water, the visual identity of the main show was essentially dead and replaced with something else. They switched to 1080i high-definition animation. It wasn't even close to the gritty, imperfect, experimental animation that attracted many of us to the series in the first place. Everything was smoothed out, glossy, and in some cases looked completely three-dimensional. And while they still used SpongeBob's elasticity and Bikini Bottom's crazy characters for comedic purposes, it felt like it was all to make up for lazy writing. No depth, no good character arcs, just...
Why did he have a Squidward nose for a second?
Introducing new, random, exotic characters like a Rick and Morty episode. Not to mention how they constantly turn SpongeBob into something grotesque and unsettling. They seem to be particularly obsessed with characters ripping their skin off.
Again, what were they thinking?
And despite the show being objectively worse in every way possible, the strong legacy of Steve's original creation led to the show maintaining pretty decent ratings over the years. It's almost like with every new season, people hope the original charm would come back. SpongeBob actually won the Favorite Cartoon Award every year from 2003 to 2021, except in 2008 when Avatar: The Last Airbender momentarily took the spotlight.
2008. I wonder what happened. I wonder how SpongeBob was doing then.
SpongeBob had transcended TV ratings. He was a generational cultural icon
Weird that it was just 2008 when he didn't win.
Similar to Mickey Mouse. Nickelodeon literally needed him to survive because he was an extension of their identity. After the release of the Sponge Out of Water film in 2015, Steven Hillenburg actually returned to work more closely on the show, and many fans felt like Steve was going to breathe new life into this series.
And it was starting to come back a little, at least a little, not like season 1 through 3 levels of having its charm, but it was starting to get somewhat better by comparison.
Even with him back in the writer's room, bringing SpongeBob back from the grave would take a miracle. TV as a whole...
Yeah, it would. It wouldn't get back to the golden era, but it would at least get better than seasons 4 through 9, or the worst of 4 through 9.
Was phasing out as social media took over, and tragically, Steven Hillenburg did not have much time left. In a formal statement to fans in 2017, Steve wrote, "I wanted people to hear directly from me that I have been diagnosed with ALS. Anyone who knows me knows I will continue to work on SpongeBob SquarePants and my other passions for as long as I am able. My family and I are grateful for the outpouring of love and support. We ask that our sincere request for privacy be honored during this time. For those unfamiliar with ALS, the disease leads to muscle weakness and gets worse over time. ALS often begins with muscle twitching and weakness in an arm or leg, trouble swallowing, or slurred speech. Eventually, ALS affects the muscles needed to move, speak, eat, and breathe. The last time the public would see Hillenburg before his death in 2018 was when he received an Emmy Award from his old friend Tom Kenny.
SpongeBob's vocal cords might be mine, but SpongeBob's playful spirit of gentle anarchy, his humor, and the joy he takes in his vibrant, colorful, music-filled world come directly 100% from my good buddy, Mr. Steven Hillenburg. I love you, brother. Thank you.
Rest in peace to a legend. Absolute legend.
Steven Hillenburg ultimately passed away peacefully in his home in November of 2018, and after his death there was a constant discussion about what Steve would have wanted for the future of SpongeBob SquarePants, because less than 3 months after his death...
Because the interesting thing is, he's no longer with us, so we'll never know truly what he wanted to do with SpongeBob, like, after the second movie. Because unfortunately we can't ask him now. We'll never know if he was truly planning a spin-off series, or if he never wanted that to happen.
Nickelodeon announced that they were developing spin-off projects for SpongeBob SquarePants characters for the first time ever. Immediately, fans were suspicious as Hillenburg discussed his reluctance towards spin-offs in 2009.
Yeah, I think what was mentioned was that he himself doesn't see SpongeBob doing a spin-off series.
Said, the show is about SpongeBob. He's the core element, and it's about how he relates to the other characters. Patrick by himself might be a bit too much, so I don't see any spin-offs. Camp Coral was announced in June of 2019.
It's that kind of thing that shows why Planet Sheen didn't really work as well compared to Sheen in Jimmy Neutron.
Which was immediately met with extreme backlash. The updated show was CG animated, and it followed the adventures of SpongeBob and his friends as 10-year-old kids. The show completely backpedals on whatever remained of the original plot of SpongeBob, and pretends like SpongeBob knew all of these characters since he was a child.
They were never really the 100% best with continuity, but this was a whole new level of confusing when it came to the continuity.
Paul Tibbett posted a tweet confronting the staff on the project, arguing that this was all for the sake of greed. Do not mean any disrespect to my colleagues who are working on this show. They are good people and talented artists, but this is some greedy, lazy executiving right here, and they all know full well Steve would have hated this. Shame on them. But the situation got more complicated and confusing when I'm Urging You to Leave, a Camp Coral short based on the series, was leaked in 2021 that featured a credit saying that the show was created by Hillenburg. Tom Kenny also spoke out against the backlash, saying, "We were a little unsure about the CGI thing too. SpongeBob is such a determinedly 2D classic animated looking show. They were able to find a way to take that CGI and lend it the same squashy, stretchy, kinetic, the craziness of 2D classic animation. That was a puzzle they worked really hard to figure out, and I think are still learning on Camp Coral. I think it's fun to have to learn new tricks when you've been doing something for a while, so it doesn't become stale." And in a now deleted series of tweets,
the fact that it said created by Steven Hillenburg, that's one of those things that makes it hard to tell whether or not he had truly planned for that thing, or if he was like truly against this kind of thing.
Current SpongeBob showrunner Vincent Waller said, "Steve was aware it was being developed. Sadly, he did not get to see it completed. I think it would have made him smile. Saying, 'I don't see any spin-offs' is in no way saying, 'I would never do a spin-off.' Just like when he said he had no interest in doing a movie, yet lo and behold, not only did he make a movie, but he took part in 3 of them. So can we give a rest to the he would nevers?" Then again, it wasn't just this one spin-off. The network has released The Patrick Star Show. Again, Steve explicitly said in the past that this would be too much, The Title Zone, and additional films like the Sandy Cheeks movie and Plankton the movie. And
I remember seeing the Sandy Cheeks movie, and that was... I don't know why that had to happen.
It's because of all this that many fans believe Steven Hillenburg is rolling in his grave as the greedy Nickelodeon executives rinse his sponge until it's bone dry. But I think that is a bit of an overstatement. I think we can infer from Steve's past quotes that the artist in him never saw SpongeBob going past season 3, let alone becoming a legacy character like Mickey Mouse. He probably didn't love all these wacky new ideas, spin-offs, and concepts, but he understood that his creation was much bigger than him.
If I were to ever have a child, I don't think I see myself having a child or two. Maybe that could change, I don't know. Just at the moment, I'd be thinking against it. But suppose I were to. If I were to introduce them to SpongeBob, I would start with seasons 1 through 3, as well as the movie. And then eventually, like years later, then I would let them see how the series had changed quite a bit after the movie. Just so that they could know, like, what we had and what it had eventually become, as like a way to display how much more weird things can be if greed takes over the company and they just want it to keep going.
Was generational. Add on the fact that he developed...
Plus, I don't want them to be scarred by the Splinter episode or the toenail scene.
friends and relationships with the hardworking folks who worked on this show and would probably want them to keep their jobs. It's unlikely that all of these spin-offs were thought of the moment he passed away, as shows generally take years and years to develop. He probably was aware of them or was even presented them during his tenure. And since Steve was a great guy and was open-minded, he probably genuinely considered every new idea that was presented to him and tried to make it make sense while still maintaining the artistic integrity of the
That is a cool looking image right there.
Original show. Maybe he did even work on some of these spin-offs, but I don't think it's a coincidence that 0 spin-offs were greenlit while Steve was alive, because if SpongeBob's legacy was truly up to Steven Hillenburg and not a multi-billion-dollar network, the show would have never made it past 2004. SpongeBob is a great reminder that the best cartoons are the ones that adults can watch too, because historically, cartoons were actually never made for kids. But check out this video if you want to hear that.
That will not be the next video that we'll watch, but we do have another Patrick CC video coming up